the American Forces Vietnam Network, a division of the Office of Information, Military Assistance Command, Vietnam. The key stations with studios and transmitters in Saigon and Cat Lo, Republic of Vietnam, broadcast at 540 kilohertz on the AM band with a power of 50,000 watts, and at 99.9 megahertz on the FM band with an effective radiated power of 100,000 watts.
Here we are looking at the Aerorifle Platoon, Blue Teams. You can field them from either Black Horse or Tropic Lightning divisions. Any Aerorifle platoons lost or ignored when taking company morale checks. The helicopters of the Aerorifle platoon only carry their own troops. This means they are always available for immediate pickup to move on to the next contact. UH-1D slicks have two-door guns and fire 180-degree arcs to either side. The helicopters of the Blue Teams, or lift sections, may elect to operate as either gunships or slicks each turn, whether they are carrying passengers or not. When working as slicks, they are not obligated to land within 12 inches of the landing zone, and they may remain on station as gunships after dismounting passengers or return to the PZ. These are the most versatile troops in the American arsenal.
Going back into, and where we were picking up the troops from was Lai K, which was about 25 to 30 miles north of Saigon, 1st Infantry Division.
A full lift section deployment will consist of 5 slicks and 11 light machine gun teams. And of course can choose to use M16 rifles, M72 Laws rockets, or M79 grenade launchers. Or you can go as light as 1 machine gun team in a single helicopter, combat attached to a white, red, or pink team, or do so in any number or variation in between. This allows light and heavy recon teams the ability to search suspicious civilians, possible arms caches, and obtain other intelligence. 6 cell count as reserves. You must designate an area on an adjacent table as a pickup zone.
Get lined up. We're getting ready to load them up on the aircraft, and we were there just a little bit early. They weren't quite ready for us. They're getting out to line up.
Helicopter platoons operate like any other platoon and follow the command and movement rules. Helicopters do not have a movement distance. Simply place a helicopter where you want it to be in the movement step. Helicopters operate in platoons and must remain in command when moving. Helicopters can move over any sort of terrain, but may only end their movement where they can be placed. Gunships ignore minefields and other sorts of obstacles, but dismounted troops will have to deal with those effects. We will not send the red teams that just attacked into rearm this turn. Instead, we're going to have them mark the landing zone for the Blue Teams.
This is the crew chief getting ready to mark the LZ with yellow smoke. We're coming in real for a low pass, marking the landing zone for the lead aircraft.
Helicopters will not fly through artillery fire, so the gunners cease fire or switch targets when the helicopters arrive. Even though they are flying low, helicopters are still too fast moving and high for anything but a shoulder-fired infantry weapon or dedicated AA gun to hit. Helicopters fly very low in direct support of the grunts on the ground, more like highly mobile vehicles than aircraft, and they are shot at like vehicles in the opponent's shooting step, rather than being shot at like aircraft in the owning player's shooting step. Always measure the fuselage, and helicopters have a 5-up unarmored vehicle save when hit. However, they're not automatically destroyed if they fail to save. Instead, the opponent must make a firepower test to destroy them, otherwise they fly on unharmed. Also, infantry teams and self-defense AA weapons must re-roll successful firepower tests against gunships. When a gunship's destroyed, it's removed. A gunship's platoon counts it as destroyed team for platoon morale check. When a slick is destroyed, its passengers are also destroyed. And of course, the Aerorifle platoon itself counts both the slick and the passengers as destroyed teams for platoon morale checks. Slicks, starting the turn at the pickup zone, load passengers and are placed on the table in the movement step. They remain there for the remainder of the turn with their passengers on board, and they can shoot their door machine guns. All teams awaiting transport to the landing zone are held off table at the pickup zone. All slicks begin the game on the pickup zone. Platoons can be deployed off table in the pickup zone rather than on the table as normal. Likewise, platoons arriving from reserve can also be placed in the pickup zone, including artillery. So the slicks are coming in and have not yet landed during the entire enemy turn. Then on their next turn's movement phase, Having braved any enemy fire, the slicks flare to a quick landing, drop the grunts, then head straight off again. Then they will return to the pickup zone unless you pay the price for an air transport platoon or they happen to be air rifle transports, in which case you can have them remain on station as gunships. Our Aerorifle platoon is led from the air by Captain Paul C. Murray of Washita, Wisconsin. On the ground, First Lieutenant Derek Harvey of Piscataway, New Jersey. He is an infantry platoon ground commander. At the moment, he is only sending down 2 helicopters comprised of 4 teams led by Staff Sergeant Bryant Soto of Roswell, Georgia. There was no enemy fire as they came in and the landing zone was clear. Despite this, Staff Sergeant Soto immediately orders his troops to disperse as quickly as possible into the tree line.
The troops jump out on each side, rush out to the side, get out away from the aircraft so we can get off.
2 helicopters are ordered to remain on station and there is no shooting this turn. The blue teams are ordered by Company Commander Captain Holloway in the CNC bird overhead to fan out and sweep west towards the blocking force. He then orders the blocking force, which is a mechanized infantry platoon situated on the road to the west, led by Lieutenant Kenneth Watson of San Antonio, Texas, to move east to link up with the blue teams. Lieutenant Watson promptly disperses his troops and orders them to fan out to either side of the road and move to the east. The 2 American light machine gun squads immediately uncover a pair of apparent Vietnamese peasants on the edge of the landing zone. Staff Sergeant Soto stops his squad while signaling the other squad led by Sergeant First Class Brent McGregor to flank them by hooking around on their west. Don't lie! Soto orders a pair of civilians not to move. Lie day! Then he orders them to move towards him. The Americans must roll a skill test whenever they choose to interrogate suspect enemy teams, either local force militia units or civilian resistance cadres. Since this is a resistance team, the Americans also have the option to move 1 resistance team per turn up to 6 inches, so they roll a die and they can move that team 2 inches and they move them towards them. The Americans did no shooting during their shooting step, so during their assault step they have the option of questioning the resistance team. They are rated confident, trained, and require a 4-up to succeed. The civilians, both female, appear friendly and produce their papers convincing the Americans they are not a threat. The Americans have lost ground to ground since they're 4 inches from the resistance team. Now, on the PAVN half of the turn, they move one of their local force militia platoons near the surface and have 3 teams come up through 2 tunnel entrances to the north, still inside the tree line and just within 80 feet minimum AK-47 range. The PAVN Regular Infantry Battalion Headquarters moves 1 platoon and puts 1 light machine gun and 3 AK-47 teams into position up from tunnel entrances on the south side of the Americans. The PAVN player must be careful to keep his troops within command control distance. The PAVN battalion commander also has a heavy machine gun nest disguised as an anthill 20 feet north of the American teams. The PAVN resistance fighters standing with the Americans try to muster their courage to attack. Needing a 4-up, they do, and suddenly drop a Chinese hand grenade as they open fire with an AK-47 and M16 at range. They roll a 5, scoring a hit, but the Americans roll a save with a 6 and scatter out of the way as the girls vanish into the tall grass. The 3 PAVN militia teams to the north blast away from the concealment of the jungle. So 6 dice, needing 3s to hit, trade American riflemen. The PAVN militia score 4 hits. The Americans save 3 of them, and the PAVN have wounded 1 team's members, needing 5 to kill them all. PAVN regular force, light machine gun and 3 AK-47 teams on the south side of the open fire. So 9 dice, 3s with 4 hits, 2 saves, and 1 team destroyed, 1 wounded. And lastly, the PAVN opened fire with their heavy machine gun nest disguised as an anthill directly to the north of the American teams. Type 57 heavy machine gun, 6 dice needing 3s, with 3 hits and 3 saves. Since neither of the PAVN command teams moved, they will both attempt to shoot and scoot with their active platoons. First, the militia company Daiwi, or captain, needs a 4-up to recall his trained troops, and the 3 teams to the north successfully slip back underground. And the NVA battalion Diao Doan, or lieutenant colonel, also needs a 4-up to recall his own trained troops safely back into the secret tunnels, which they accomplish quite smoothly, ending the PAVN turn. At the beginning of the next United States turn, Captain Holloway begins to coordinate his next moves. He orders Lieutenant Watson's mechanized infantry platoon to stop where they are and dig in, and he orders them to prepare a landing zone in the paddy fields to the west. Watson reports that they've begun to receive light and sporadic fire from the tree line to the north. Lieutenant Watson attempts to call in a squadron of A4E Skyhawk fighter bombers to napalm the tree line to the north. This is the United States Aerorifle platoon. In our next installment, we will look at the aerial rocket artillery battle as the action continues. I hope you will join us then.